right now. So here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. My name is Molly Larkin. I am the Director of Operations at FourthBrain. It's so good to see you. So I'm sorry, I just got a little bit of an echo. I've closed it off now, so we're good. We're so glad you're here. I'm so sorry about that little hiccup right there. My name is Molly Larkin. I'm the Director of Operations at FourthBrain. We are here to talk about our MLOps programs, and we have a few of our graduates here. We have some of our staff here, and we're really excited to get started to tell you more about what we do here at FourthBrain, hear a little bit more about MLOps and what it is and what we're trying to do for our graduates and our students. And please, at any point on the right hand of your screen, you'll see the chat. Put your questions there. We will be answering them as we go along, and put any questions that you have, and we will get to them as much as we can. With that, I'd like to introduce you to Greg, our Director of Product.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, I'm really excited to tell you all today about the MLOps program. And if we go ahead and go to the next slide, then we're kind of going to meet our grads first. I'm going to go through the curriculum. We will also meet our Director of Career Services. And there's going to be opportunity for you throughout to ask Q&A in the live chat, as Molly mentioned. So next slide, this is just Molly, me, and James on this next slide. So you'll meet James a little bit later. And our grads are really the stars of the show today. So we've got James Sato, a translational data scientist at Mass General Brigham. We've got Sridhar Iyer, who is working on something new. Maybe he'll give us some insight into that today. We've got James Delorimier, who's a data scientist at C4ADS. And we've got Shakur Yenis, who's a senior software engineer at the American Institute of Physics. So I want to go ahead and open it up to hear a little bit about the journey that each of these folks took to MLOps. James Sato, I want to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about where you were when you were thinking about getting into MLOps and how your journey has kind of traversed since then?
Well, first off, thank you for having me, FourthBrain team. Always happy to be back and really helping to grow the FourthBrain community. As for my route into ML operations as a whole, I was traditionally a robotics engineer, very specialized in hardware robotics, and basically discovered machine learning, or rather rediscovered the modern age of machine learning while working with the Plus One robotics startup. They really specialized in computer vision for the logistics sector. And that was basically my introduction to modern machine learning as we know it nowadays, and really just got pulled into their entire machine learning pipeline, really helped them deploy their models really successfully. And then from there, that's how I discovered FourthBrain and really got into the program, and it really skyrocketed my career into now working as a translational data scientist at Mass General.
Very cool, James. Yeah, that's great to hear. I want to move on to the other James Delorimier today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the MLOps program and some of the things that you're feeling and seeing since?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career in technology really only just 2 years ago, and I was lucky enough to work at an organization where I got to touch a lot of pieces of the software or data engineering pipeline. And so after doing some work in data engineering, software, web development, I was really just looking for a way to put all the pieces together. And I've been interested in machine learning, just about how accessible it is now increasingly to a layperson. So I thought this was a great introduction to learning about DevOps, learning about, actually deploying software while simultaneously looking at how machine learning can be easily integrated into that. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Moving right on down the line, Sridhar, can you tell us about your journey into MLOps?
Well, I've been tinkering with ML systems for 5 to 10 years. And after you make all possible mistakes, you got to learn somewhere, right? Trying to put data on S3 bucket only takes you so far. And this is a new and emerging tool. There's a lot of new things that make the workflow operations very efficient. So, rather than going through more pain, I wanted to come to a place where I can learn the landscape and start to use those tools and become more efficient. Can you really code without GitHub today? That's what, if you don't know MLOps, that's where you are. So.
Yeah, I love it, Sridhar. Love it. So yeah, Shakur, you've also been around in the software engineering game for quite some time, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into MLOps?
Yes, thank you very much, Greg. My name is Shakur. I was my background is mathematics, and software engineering. I was looking for the application, and I was looking for the product. Now, just I was reading, articles that it doesn't help. That is how I just met Matt from FourthBrain. Hey, I have this and that, and he just clear it up, and really just I'm happy, to go this journey with FourthBrain, and the team and the instructors are open up a lot of discussions, things are happening, I'm happy now, just right now where I am. Thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Shakur.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, so I'm really kind of interested now that all of you have graduated from the MLOps program and you've kind of got a feel for this new buzzword, right? MLOps, and then you go back out into your job, you go back out into your next job, back out into the world of ML in production that everybody's talking about. What sort of impact has this had on the way you think about things and the way you're able to interact with people in your organization? James Delormier, I want to go ahead and start with you on this one because you went back to the same job. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I took this class while working and was just immediately applying my work pretty effectively even throughout the course. And then after the course, I almost practically recreated my capstone project to a T in my organization. And it was pretty successful. So so I guess immediate impact what is the answer. It was still a project that was in kind of internal research and development, but already the implications are causing our management to hire new data scientists right now. So they were convinced of the impact that this can make.
That's amazing to hear, James. Yeah. So over to the other James, you're in a slightly different position where you actually started with a new role relatively recently. Can you tell us about how your MLOps experience has impacted that?
Absolutely, Greg. Yes. So, like my title states, I'm primarily working as a data scientist, but especially nowadays with the explosion of machine learning in all fields, really organizations are asking more and more of their data scientists, and that's really where the MLOps piece come in. And we can talk a lot more about the definition of MLOps and what exactly it means in the field and all that stuff. But the big thing that I really applied in my scenario, really joining a new organization that was really bringing in the knowledge base and already the trained skill set at that point after going through the program, being able to develop fully fleshed out pipelines that really take into consideration the full lifespan of the machine learning model, as well as all the retrainings and validation cycles that modern machine learning models have to go through to be successful in industry. So I was joining a team of already very capable data scientists and machine learning engineers, but they really needed people that could really take those pre-existing technologies that they spent a lot of man hours to develop and really turn it into a usable product that they could rely on to run 24/7 for the next 3 years. And that's really where this MLOps program really slides in very, very, very well.
Nice. Sridhar, James has me thinking about you as he's talking about the complete big picture, full life cycle productization of models. I wonder if maybe you want to talk a little bit about how you're viewing taking some of the work that maybe you've done in the past and actually productizing it with some of your new MLOps knowledge.
Yes. See, one thing I want to point out is majority of ML experiments do not make it to production. So you have to deal with data scientists, you have to deal with ML engineers, and they are so used to notebooks. And even when you show a trivial package that says, hey, I can take it from notebook to production, but just little extra, it's an eye opener for everybody on the team. ML ops is so new, and most of the people are so ingrained to using notebooks and not worrying about production. When you even mention tools, there is interest from all sides, not just MLOps people, even the people who are working on scientists, who are doing the experiments, the initial stages of development. Wow, I wish I knew. I mean, they're not getting into MLOps, but the basic knowledge, because everybody wants to get their work into production. So from that point of view, it's an emerging landscape. What do you use? It's kind of, I found a lot of scientists who want to know more about this field than just the MLOps people.
Right, 100%. Shakur, when you think about kind of the number of people that want to kind of know about MLOps that you've run into since you started kind of learning this stuff, have you met any of these people in your current organization? Have you started to, see any new opportunities bloom as a result of your MLOps knowledge now? It's such an emergent field. Are you noticing some of these same things as Sridhar?
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. The idea of, ML ops is, is a buzzword. But still, in our company, there is a need of, products, So how we can, fill this gap, that is really just, a big, help, me being here and, learn about ML process, not only just getting the product, how to support it, just, you get a product and it's a different scenario, just, how to support that. You have to understand, how the workflow and works. So to discuss and, to see the total pictures and, the visibility of the product in our company, really just, it was great help. Coming here and learning about ML ops. And as a software engineer, really just, seeing, what ML ops for software engineers. And, this, that is, a big, deep breeze for me, just, learning, ML ops.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of interested. James Sato, you mentioned this. What even is MLOps, right? All of you that have kind of taken this curriculum, you're sort of on the other side of this. You might be the person in your company that people ask this question to. I mean, what is your answer today? It's a tough question, and I want to go ahead and put it right back to you, James Sato. As you get started and you meet new people in your new org, I mean, what are you telling them about MLOps?
Yes, honestly, Greg, thankfully I'm not in an organization that asks that question a lot because that's why they hired me. But definitely MLOps is simply it's really just working around the lifetime of machine learning models from the end of the research phase is what I like to call it, generally coming from an ML engineer, a more discrete ML engineer, all the way through sunsetting a model and replacing it with a successor model or an improved model or a new feature altogether. And it really encompasses this mixture of both the hard technical skills of implementing the technology as well as a lot of the other soft skills, right? communicating model performance to all levels of management, as well as quantifying exactly the value that's being produced with the model, working through all of the stages of the model lifespan to really produce value. And there is a lot of value to be had with a lot of these machine learning models, and there's definitely more coming out of the research lab that the industry has the capacity yet to fully implement. So that's really where MLOps comes in, and honestly, that's why it keeps me excited every day to talk about it.
Yeah. There's definitely this big AI product development lifecycle piece to MLOps, sort of the big picture, and it's so important. But we've noticed at FourthBrain and like out talking to many people in the industry, there's a lot of different definitions of MLOps. So like I wonder, James Delormier, like when somebody asks you in your particular role in your particular organization, like what's your response? What does MLOps mean for us, James?
To be honest, I would be pretty surprised if anyone had the phrase MLOps in my industry at this point. But I think like what it comes down to is, as like a technical person in a non-technical organization, broadly speaking, my role is often like, all right, you got to get it done. You got to hit the nail with the hammer, have whatever means necessary, means to an end. And, that is kind of also a little bit how I think of MLOps. It's like, it's how actually the end product gets made. It's, done thinking about the issue, done experimenting. It's actually getting it going, getting results out. And so that is kind of how I think of it as well.
Get it going, getting the results out. Yeah, there's something like very closely linked to this product development life cycle. Not many of these things make it to production. So you have to take many sort of shots on goal before you can really get it into operation. I mean, Sridhar, you kind of alluded to this earlier, like this idea of how do you see sort of this idea of like an ML MVP, a minimum viable product? How does this sort of connect to MLOps in your mind?
See, till I would say maybe few months or even a couple of years, it depends on the organization size. For most MVP, it was, again, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the notebook. You put a sample input, but it's getting more and more complicated because enterprises are coming up with useful use cases. So it's not, latency plays a part. How often can you do updates? What are you missing? I keep hearing, I read the web history recently. The first 6 months, Google used to crash pretty much twice a day or 3 times a day. Can you imagine Google crashing 2 or 3 times a day? What happened? What was the economic impact when AWS went down? So you push a model, you are assessing insurance risk, the ML is getting into a lot of mainstream products. How do you increase reliability? So it's kind of, more disciplined MVP development, reuse of code. You can throw anything on a notebook, it's interactive, make sure it works. But is it going to work when 10 people hit it, 100 people, and will it scale up? So it's kind of, taking the training wheels off, becoming a mainstream product. So it's not just, it's no longer pie in the sky. There are useful use cases, and you have to use a disciplined approach for those.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Sridhar. And what we're seeing is that we kind of have this barrier to entry on ML in existing organizations, and when they finally get that model into production, it's like now we've got actually the process. Okay, we've got the data scientist, we've got the data engineer, we've got the machine learning engineer, maybe we have the software engineer, maybe the senior software engineer, Shakur, and we've got kind of this chasm that exists sometimes between data science and development operations or DevOps. Like if you're kind of putting yourself back in the shoes of before you took the MLOps program, and you're thinking, okay, what should I be aiming at here? There's all these jobs out there. There's data scientist, there's data engineer, there's machine learning engineer, there's MLOps engineer now up and coming. What advice would you give your former self, or would you give someone who's considering looking at MLOps as a next path in their career, to try to navigate this growing space of complexity and overlap? James Sato, I think I see some little bit of nodding happening from you. Like, what would you advise people thinking about this, walking this path?
Well, the lizard brain in me, if I can say it that way, the gut feeling in me is that if you're already considering MLOps, then it probably is the path that you should take. Just like for me, it really accelerated my career fundamentally and honestly in an exponential way. No other way to describe it. And there's just such a strong appetite for the skill sets that really being studied in MLOps brings. But at the same exact time, also consider that there is the entire career pipeline for data science and machine learning as well. Each one of them does have a very discrete role, and each one of them does really prefer a specific preference type. For instance, for me, I find a lot of the reward in my work to be interconnecting all of these very state-of-the-art, right, brand new cutting-edge technologies together. And I know for many people that might not seem as desirable of a career, but if you're more interested in the research to do so, then probably working towards the ends of a machine learning engineer or a data engineer might work a lot better for you. And if you're really getting your feet wet and really trying to just understand what this entire field is about, that's generally where I will recommend really looking into a data scientist style of role. Just like I have right now, although my breadth of work is a little bit wider than that, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an entire net of careers out there that is really becoming a lot more robust and understood now by multiple industries, not just the technology industry. So it's just a really exciting time, and it's just a matter of finding your personal fit within all of these discrete roles, rather than just, oh, MLOps is the buzzword right now. That's not the case. All of us here took the MLOps course, but we're not going to straight up recommend you. We are looking for a preference as a whole.
Yeah. I like this idea of connecting things and being somebody that really thrives on connecting the pieces to the puzzle here. Is this something that drew you, James Delormier, to the MLOps program as well? Is this something that you find fulfilling in your work?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, without like building a ridiculously large analogy of, like some metaphor, I do think like it was really helpful to, like, you have some software engineers and they're building the software, and maybe I'm kind of a growing data engineer, and how do I pipe this data in? But like, besides doing that, how do I enrich it, like, as it's going in? And those kinds of thoughts, if that's like the interest area, I think this is a really strong, like, introduction to industry best practices of, connecting the pipes. But like, in those connective pieces, that's where a lot of opportunity is, of like inserting some machine learning transformation, et cetera. And so I think that's the piece where I'm interested in as well, and where this class helped me.
Yeah. So if we were to just double click in on that, James, then and think about kind of, well, we have this burgeoning space, and ML ops is rather new, but we also have this machine learning engineering component that's really been very emergent and evolved quite a lot over the past few years. Within this context of connecting the pieces, like, where do you draw the line between machine learning engineering and machine learning operations?
I somewhat hesitate to like speak with authority, because I'm still relatively young in my career and I haven't seen too many other like industry roles. But I do kind of like would appreciate if I had a big organization, I would want some machine learning engineer and basically mandate them by saying, okay, here's your issue area, build the model as best as possible. And like, we'll give that model to the other subject matter experts, namely the data engineer and the software engineer, and they'll figure out how to implement it. But like, you know, kind of building out that trifecta is the machine learning MLOps person who can fluently communicate with all parties and, you know, make that junction flourish. You know, of course, if you have that many roles in your organization, I think that's the perfect setup.
Yeah. So I want to kind of keep clicking in on this idea, this fundamental difference idea that Krishanu Sinha asked about versus MLOps and MLE. I mean, you know, Shakur, I want to kind of go with you because you're starting from the other side of the two Jameses, right? So you're working with DevOps folks. You've been developing software for many years. What does it look like from there when you look at machine learning engineering or machine learning operations?
Yeah, just, you know, as you know, in software engineering, you know, there is a discipline, you know, agile approach, you know. So now this agile nature of the software, and when you take ML ops, that will formalize everything, you know. You know, without that, you know, just, you know, without understanding ML ops, it is hard to get, you know, just the product out, even if you have, you know, just, you know, the software engineering experience, because, you know, MLOps, it connects, you know, the operations and, you know, the scientists, data scientists. So as you just participate in, you know, agile environment, you know, where is, who is, you know, what to communicate, you know, that idea will be just much more clearer and cleaner. Really, just, you know, it is interesting to me. If I didn't get, such a course, and, you know, I would read, articles. I will try to do my own assignments, but within this short time of amount, you know, it is hard to me just, you know, to come into, hey, now just I'm confident I can go into just, you know, as you know, MLOps or, you know, machine learning engineers. So, really, thank you very much. I see the curriculum and I go through it, and the curriculum, it speaks by itself, you know. Just, you know, when you want to just, you know, a course, just look at the curriculum and try to calibrate, you know, just, you know, that one. And the other thing, you know, Greg, before I forget, you know, the HR gems, you know, when you say, talk to me, when you ask the question, you know, how to just, if you are looking for the job, you know, I was almost to say, talk to James, but that's not the case. But, you know, just try to look at, you know, the curriculum and see how you fit on that.
Yeah. So you know, this idea of sort of agile software development, Sridhar, you've been in this game for a long time, and when you're looking from that perspective, I know you've kind of got the broad spectrum, sort of the high level entrepreneurial, but you've also got kind of down in the weeds coding perspective. I mean, are you seeing a big difference between MLE and MLOps in 2022? Like, how do you sort of parse this?
There is some overlap in the senses. See, when you want to deploy a product, you know, this is an experience I recently had. You know, there are DevOps. Now we just said, you know, we want to put a vector database, you know, making search faster. So it's like, why can't you use an existing database? I don't want to create a new engine, and, you know, there is some lack of knowledge in different departments, and MLEs are also beginning to realize, you know, I need to educate, you know, I may not have a MLOps, dedicated MLOps. So there's kind of a lot of overlap. People are, you know, in the sense is, what is it, trying to learn. There is no agile development in ML area yet. It's just coming in. And I'm not trying to sell, but MLOps people look like the grown-ups in the room, because MLOps can explain what is needed to take it to production. So, from that point of view, you are in a good place, because MLEs lack that knowledge, and most of the MLOps at least know what the models are. They know the basics of MLE. So
Yeah. That's a great dovetail into the last question I want to ask, and this is for the two Jameses. We've got a lot of great questions in the chat, and I'm going to hit a number of them when we talk about curriculum here in a minute. But we've got a really interesting question. E asks, if main goal is to be a data scientist, more building models, running analysis, and creating data sets, would MLOps still be a worthwhile program to study, or something else? James Delermier, let's start with you, and let's end with James Sato.
I mean, I would honestly say no, probably, is my honest answer. I think if you just want to build cool models and, read research papers, really more power to you. I think that's a noble occupation. I would say this is for someone who more wants to learn what the heck the software engineers are doing, kind of cares what the data science team is putting out, but really only on a surface level, and just have your hands in the full workings of all the pieces. But if you just care about one piece, maybe I would say this is not a discipline for you.
Great. James,
I'd also say, take a look.
Yeah. Check the curriculum, right? Check the curriculum. Yeah. We'll be taking a look in a second. James Sato, what advice do you have for a budding data scientist today?
I mean, in many parts, I do very strongly agree with Delormier about if you're really just focused in on just developing, the state-of-the-art models, really, that there is an entire focus area right there for you. At the same time, I do see myself to be a little bit more entrepreneurially practical, if I can say that way. And from what I'm experiencing out in the industry right now, working out there with all of the state-of-the-art technologies, that in many ways you cannot afford not to have the MLOps skills. Regardless of whatever meeting I'm ending up with, whether it is on my own level or with vertical management above me, there's always the question of how will it get done. And while an MLE will have many of those answers, right, being able to estimate things like, time to production, to just round trip times for requests and stuff like that, that is only something that I believe that you really can develop in an MLOps style course like the one provided here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, James. I want to thank all of our guests today and all of our amazing speakers, Sridhar, James, and Shakur. Thank you so much. I want to go ahead and turn now to a little bit more about the curriculum. We've kind of gotten some insight that maybe we should dive in a little deeper, and I wanted to go ahead and do that right now. So let's go ahead and take a look together at what the curriculum is all about. First off, we're going to talk about this MLOps course that is our flagship course on MLOps, and it is the one that we heard graduates from talking about today. The 10-week program is one that's going to really be about 10 to 15 hours a week of your time, 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Tuesday. And what we're going to do is we're going to really focus on working together throughout the whole thing. So go ahead and go to the next slide. But what you're going to get out of this program is you're going to get the ability to train and deploy, monitor, retrain, and keep improving, and ultimately to scale your ML models in cloud-based production environments. So, there was one question today, GCP or AWS. both. You're going to learn a little bit about both, and it's going to be your option which one to pick in terms of your capstone project. So it's all about like the full life cycle. So if we dig in a little bit deeper to this 10-week transformation, next slide, please. We go from this big high level we heard about today, the AI product lifecycle in its totality. We talk levels of automation. So, there was another question today. Can it be done? Pradeep asked, can it be done through CI/CD? Yes, it can. And that is the highest level of MLOps automation. And so we need to build all the way up to that in week 9 when we get to end-to-end full stack ML in the cloud. But in between, it's really important to make sure that we're solid on how to build and deploy web apps. That means, what is the web application framework? What is the Docker container or any other containerization technology that we're using? What are our options for serving today? So the options, there's a plethora of options depending on our stack and what we're most familiar with. And how can we put together the infrastructure for data, not just model, but also data version control? From there, it's really important to look at model version control and how to manage and maintain models, and make sure that we're actually then not just able to build, deploy, but actually scale these deployments. And that's where we get into tools like Kubernetes and an understanding of these underlying engines of some of the larger managed services. Whether you're Amazon or Google or Microsoft, underlying your managed service are some key technologies and first principles that we dive into. So that kind of gets us to the end-to-end pipeline place. And again, every cloud platform has its own tool. So by then you've sort of picked a cloud platform. We're going to show you with one of them, and sort of how to build workflows and pipelines in a really streamlined way, leveraging managed services. And we're going to sort of give you some insights into the open source tools as well. There are some really obvious, clear, and distinct winners of the monitoring and logging front for ML. And so we go into those. And all of this gets put together 1 week at a time, culminating in your final demo day. So, that's the 10-week program. And then what we did is we actually created a short course, an MLOps short course. So it's a 4-week MLOps program. And we took only the key components of this. And so if we go to the next slide here, what the point of the short course is it's to give you that knowledge of what an end-to-end pipeline actually is. Okay, can you describe end-to-end pipelines? Do you understand what's going on when we talk about end-to-end pipelines? What are the tools? What are the techniques? Have I seen one before? What do I mean by this? And then more broadly, what is that AI product development lifecycle? Can I describe it? Can I put all the pieces together to create business value through MLOps? And so if we look at kind of what the key pieces that we took out of this program and we really expanded upon, and we really want to make sure we make clear in an introductory course like this. Next slide, please. We're going to look at not only the AI product development lifecycle, but also we're going to focus on data-centric AI. It's very, very important, good data, not big data. This is the future. So it's important to kind of kick things off with this. In the context of the AI product development lifecycle, we're going to talk not just about model version control again, but also data version control. And when it comes to model serving, this is everything. Like, do you know what someone means when they say, I'm going to run an ML model inference? What are these pieces of vocabulary, and what are the corresponding tools that you might need to understand as you go out into the workforce and start to learn and pick up some of these things? And then, of course, we need to talk about automation of ML pipelines. We're keeping it relatively simplistic. We might conceptually talk about CI/CD, but we will be, not like, you won't be building these on your own in the 4-week course. So one of the big key distinguishing things in the courses is the time commitment that is required. So the time commitment for the introduction course, you're going to be able to get this high level picture. You're going to be able to get this high level overview with about 5 hours a week. And whereas if you want to build, that 10-week program is going to take a lot more of your time. You're going to be in class 6 hours a week instead of 3. And you're also going to be probably doing a lot more out of class, both conceptually and down in the weeds. So, 2 options, the same MLOps. One more important thing to distinguish is the tools that we are going to go into. So that's what I kind of want to move into next is the tool stack. So first, when we think about tools, the place to start is with the way you start doing ML software development. And the way we do this at FourthBrain to align everyone, whether you're using Mac or Windows or Linux, you're going to be using a Unix command line interface. You're going to be getting your data science libraries and your package management through Conda. Pip is, of course, the installer. And you need to start getting really familiar with Git. Many people who get into MLOps, they are already familiar with these tools, but many also are not, especially those that transitioning from the more data science and research side. So, and even the product management side. So, Jupyter Notebooks are, of course, there. And ultimately, we want all of this to be put eventually into VS Code so that, that's where if you're using VS Code, it's connected to Git, you're leveraging Jupyter Notebooks, you're able to really effectively use the command line, like you're on the path for ML software development. And this is a free resource for all applicants. So as soon as you apply, we send this development on-ramp to you. And this is where sort of the tools begin. So next slide, we're going to just look at a quick comparison of the tools between the courses. The short course is really focused on one end-to-end AWS stack example. So it's the AWS stack. There's no real room or time to do more, but we will also give you the on-ramp. There won't be a ton of formal assignments for you to do, and you won't learn in depth nearly as many tools as you will in the 10-week program. So, it's important to note here that, SageMaker and Vertex AI, these are the two sort of leading full stack AI platforms. You're going to get exposure to both of these. You're also going to get exposure to the key frameworks, key containerization technologies, some of the key open source technologies like Kubernetes and MLflow that underlie a lot of the managed services that you'll find out there in industry, and you'll probably end up using before too long. I just want to just show you real quick, when I say end-to-end AWS stack example, next slide, please. What I'm really saying is we have one way that if we're going to build something, and we are building a cool sentiment analyzer, we're going to use Reddit to build a cool market sentiment analysis tool that we can run and check from week to week. And this is one way that we might build our MLOps stack out using AWS. So you can see there are a couple other pieces in here like NVIDIA Triton Server, Prometheus, and Grafana. We're going to go into detail conceptually on this. You're going to see us build it. We're going to demo it for you. We're going to show you each step of the way how we built it, but we're not going to require that you build it along with us. So that's kind of the tools side. And when you think about the two programs side by side, you think, okay, well, which one might be right for me? And when you think about the 4-week intro, if you're a data scientist looking to dip your toes in, if you're a product manager, if you just need to understand MLOps, but you don't necessarily need to use it in your job, or you're not necessarily aiming at an MLOps engineer role, this is going to be a great option for you. On the other hand, if you really want to go deep, if you want to understand not just the full life cycle, but the pieces and how they connect together, you're going to be really, really well positioned to do very spectacularly in this class. If you're already a working ML engineer or software engineer, or even a data scientist with a ton of do whatever needs to be done experience. And this is where we build. This is where it's all about I'm going to build my project. We're going to help you tell the story. We're going to help you build it. This is where our instructors dive in and they help you down in the weeds to do the coding, to make sure that everything that you need from a support perspective is there. We walk you through 1 week at a time. We build one alongside you. And of course, you also get personalized career services. So that's where I want to kind of pass it off to our career services director, James, to tell you a little bit more about what he's going to provide in our MLOps program, the 10-week.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Van. I'm the Director of Career Services here at FourthBrain. I'm excited to be here. I always love meeting new people, so the prospect of meeting people in every new cohort, that's very exciting to me. So welcome again, everybody. A little bit about me. I've been helping people find their next job, their next career, their next interest, their next passion for the last 20 plus years. My own journey started out as a tech recruiter here in Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then I transitioned to sort of quote unquote the other side, which is helping people get into those companies. So more on the education side, which is really my home, my sweet spot, my happy place. I love working here at FourthBrain. I really believe in the curriculum. I believe in the people that work here. And I believe in the impact that it can make. I see the impact that makes when people come in and when they go out, and whether they get a promotion or they get a new job. That's what personally what my job is all about. And so I get a direct view into that. And so it's exciting to be here. A little bit about what it is that I do. What I tell people when you come into the program, my role is simply 3 things. Number 1, I provide that classic career coaching, like that, all the classic things that any sort of career services department will provide for you, like getting yourself job search ready. So getting your marketing materials ready, your resume, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your portfolio pages, interviewing, all of those things that you can think of that will help prepare you and also organize your job search. That is a big part of my job. The second point that I want to also focus on is connecting you as students to industry, right? So at FourthBrain, I think we pride ourselves an awful lot on a very hands-on applied learning approach, right? We're learning stuff and then you being able to apply your skills so that you can go into the workplace and take the ball and run with it, right? So in addition to that, we like to bring industry people into the classroom. So part of my job is to bring industry people in to share what their challenges are, what they're doing, what the latest trends are, topics that they're passionate about. So we have a weekly speaker series. So every Wednesday we have speakers that come in, speak about different topics. It could be like, bringing specific models into production at scale in the grocery industry, or it could be, broader topics like, ethics and AI. Anything that really brings the expertise of industry into the classroom and gives you a better sense of what's happening outside of the classroom. That's something that I'm very passionate about. And so I help bring those speakers into the classroom. And last but not least is connecting our graduates to employers. So what is it that I can do as I continue to talk to employers out there? Employers are looking to hire people, students are looking for jobs. I make those connections as efficiently as possible, right? So that typically happens in one of 2 forms, whether it's, one-on-one, more like one-off hiring where I'm making connections directly, or if some companies are looking to hire multiple people, then that makes sense for us to have a hiring day. So for example, tomorrow we're having Capgemini come and join us because they're looking to hire multiple people. So they're going to talk to our graduates about positions that they have and how they can connect in with the senior director of AI and ML for North America. Boom, direct connection. That's what we're all about. Next slide. So the curriculum, going in a little bit deeper in terms of what it is that I do. It's really a 4-stage process. Number 1, I want to make sure that you can identify what your focal point and what the target is, right? If everyone comes in with a little bit of a different experience and potentially might have different needs coming out of the program, as we've heard from some of the current students and recent grads. So where are you coming from and where do you want to go? Sort of narrow that focus down, because that's important as we start to create all of your marketing materials, that so you can brand yourself towards the right audience. Then working with you to focus in on what is your job search strategy, plan that out, and then execute on that. And typically there's a little bit of an iterative process once you sort of put that plan into play, and that's where my coaching skills come into play. But my focus is to make sure that I get you across the finish line in an efficient, hopefully, with little pain as possible in your job search. So that's my job. Next slide. So how will I work with you? So in a variety of ways, I guess, is really the answer. So understanding that a lot of our current students are employed, so they're fully employed and they're taking this coursework on. I try to accommodate people's needs based on where they're at and how much time they have to spend. There will be touch points throughout the program. So I conduct live workshops. So I sort of like bring you along so that we can sort of work on some things concurrently while you work on your main curriculum. I also make myself available for one-on-one meetings. Hey, James, I've got this question that's really unique to my situation. Sure, let's schedule some time. I don't limit that time. So some people really take advantage of that, and I welcome that sort of interaction, because again, I want to, when you are successful, I'm successful. So I really like to partner with students on that. After graduation, I found that it's really successful to put people into small groups. And so we have what I would call my small job search support groups, where we come in and meet weekly on a basis and sort of muddle through the processes, report back. It's fun. We support one another, we hold each other accountable, and we help problem solve. And so the idea being is that, if you're not alone in your job search and you have your peers to kind of help you along, it's more fun. Many of you will sort of enjoy, meeting new people and make friends. And this is a way where you can continue to stay in touch with your peers after the program, and also leverage all the different brains within the room. And so that's something that I also set up. And last but not least, I have a curriculum that I've developed that you can read along, so that you can go through, read, maybe about 10, maybe 15 minutes a week to kind of keep up. So if that's kind of your thing, you can sort of do some work on your own, read through in what I consider to be sort of an asynchronous self-paced learning thing, and you'll get maybe 70% of sort of the curriculum, and then I can fill in the rest of the gap. Whole point being is that hopefully I can give you the resources that you need and the support that you need, and also accommodate your learning style and also accommodate your time. I know that there were some questions about employment stats. So a quick bit on that. So in our industry, the standard is to take a snapshot of employment at 6 months after graduation. So for the MLE cohort, we've had 5 people pass that 6-month mark, and on average of those first 5 cohorts in the MLE program, we're at 86% employment. For the MLOps, we haven't run as many. So we've had 1 cohort that has passed that 6-month mark, and they're at 100%. We're currently in the middle of the second cohort sort of 6-month period, and they're currently at 60%. And I would expect them to also be at 100% too.
Great. Thanks so much, James. Really appreciate that deep dive. James is a really great resource for all of our long course students. So just want to reiterate that we're very happy to have him. So I'm going to give you just a quick note about, how do you join both of these programs, but just as a, a quick reiteration, we do have both programs on offer right now. Hopefully we've addressed a lot of the questions there. I think Greg is going to answer a couple final little questions before we sign off, but we've really appreciated all the questions coming in. So if you are interested in either of those programs, first one, the 10-week MLOps program. As Greg has already said, this program is for students truly with a background in ML or software. So that means mainly machine learning engineer, software engineer. So you need to know Python, you need to know command line, you need to be familiar with ML concepts already before you come to that program. Most important though, for all of our students is a willingness to engage and commit during those 6 hours of live class. It's not a lecture, it is highly participatory. And so you need to come ready to participate during those 6 hours. So that's probably one of the most important features of our successful students. The application process, there is an application process. So you do have to apply, you fill out a form, you take a brief coding quiz, and then we kind of look at your background and make sure that you're set up for success in the course. The next cohort starts in September 10th. That is a recent change, so I just wanted to flag that for some students. We are currently accepting applications and enrolling for our course that begins on September 10th. If you are more of the profile that Greg also identified, a product manager, maybe a software engineer, maybe data scientist, looking to sort of understand the ML product lifecycle without going too deep into it, I'm going to tell you about the 4-week course. One note about the 10-week course, the tuition is $6,000 USD. That includes all cloud credits that you need. You don't have to pay anything additional. So you'll be added to our AWS and GCP accounts to participate in that program. The 4-week introduction to MLOps course, that begins on July 5th. You may have noticed that we have priced it in euros, and it is based in the Central European Summer Time Zone. We are, looking to engage, a lot of our audience who is in Europe or Asia or Africa, and hopefully picking a time zone that works a little bit better for those students. We are holding those classes on Tuesday evenings from 5 to 8 p.m. Central European Summertime, which is about 8 a.m. Pacific time in the US. So if you are in the Pacific time zone, it may still work for you. So there's no application process for that. You can simply register online. We will drop all of those links in the chat and then follow up with an email with all of those relevant links. I think there are a final few questions that Greg was going to answer before we sign off.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. I just wanted to just rapid fire a couple of these quick questions. First of all, shout out to Mario Carrillo, former MLE grad. In your current role, you're developing different ML models, and you need to be able to, 1, model performance experimentation, 2, based on a metric, deploy the best model to production, 3, collect the new labeled data, and 4, retrain the model. Would the course cover 1, 2, 3, 4? The short answer is yes, the course would cover 1, 2, 3, 4. Honestly, both courses on some level will cover 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're on an AWS stack already, then the short course could be a really good option for you as well, Mario. Something to look at, something to consider. And you would also, if you took the long course, you'd be able to potentially, work on your own project, and we would help you all along the way to really exactly build what it is that you're hoping to build. And you could even leverage the exact work project if you could get access to the right data. Davins 90 asks, how much introduction is the MLOps intro? What is the level of this course? The level is from a high level perspective, you can start as a beginner. From a coding perspective, you still want to have about a year of Python under your belt, because otherwise that development on-ramp is going to give you some trouble from day one. So that's why, if you go ahead and you apply to any of our programs, we like to give out that software development on-ramp for you to get a flavor of kind of what that looks like. A quick question: how does this course fit in for a person who's a DevOps engineer? Great. The full course is a great option for DevOps engineers. Just make sure that you also have some baseline in data and modeling for ML. So if you don't have that data and modeling baseline, that's something that you need to sort of bring with you into the course, because we really don't have any time to spend on that. Our MLE course does go into a lot of that, but and has an intro to MLOps, so that could be an option for you as well, depending on how far you want to go in. E, again, like if your main goal is to be a data scientist, would MLOps still be a worthwhile program to study? I would say our short course would 100% be worthwhile for you. Long course, you would definitely know what the answer was, whether or not that would be of interest to you after the short course, because it would give you the big picture, the broad perspective. It would give you enough information to really decide, okay, do I want to keep moving down this road, or am I really, really okay with where I'm at and the type of work that I'm doing today, as James Sato sort of alluded to earlier. So I think, yeah, those are kind of the quick questions. Yeah, back to you, Molly.
Great. We are about at time, so I just want to thank everyone for coming. One thing I will just reiterate is that if you're not sure, if you're maybe thinking, maybe should I take the short course, or is the longer course right for me? If you take the short course and then you choose to take the long course after that, we will credit the tuition you paid towards the long course. And we'll include that information, in the email that we follow up. But I just wanted to note that hopefully we've answered your questions about like what the programs are aimed at and, who they're aimed at and what the outcomes are. But if you're not sure, start with the short course. And then if you choose to move on, we will credit that tuition. Before we leave, I would like to ask our graduates, do you have any final thoughts for anybody considering learning MLOps before we sign off?
Go and do it. I mean, just the curriculum and, especially from software perspective, really this is the time to go and, learn MLOps.
Great.
Yeah, I totally agree with Shakur. If you're wondering whether or not you should do it, simply just do it. Regardless of whether or not you end up in a career where you are by title some form of data scientist, data engineer, machine learning engineer, or MLOps engineer, the skill sets that you learn are quickly becoming the standards of technology right now. So regardless of the end goal for you, you're definitely going to learn really good skills that will be fundamental to the future of technology as we know it.
Great. Any other final thoughts? Great. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Everybody who registered will be getting all this follow-up information with all these relevant links. So please, if you have any other questions, and we really hope to hear from you soon. Thank you all so much, and have